and I've got far more important things on my plate. Ha ha! Gessler started walking away towards the tavern, laughing at his own joke and holding his napkin over his nose. Tell tensed, and several of the soldiers moved forward nervously to do as Gessler had ordered, the crowd muttering. But just then Walter jumped out from behind his father. Oh, what's his son going to do? My father's not stupid, and he's not a peasant, he yelled. He's William Tell, a great hunter and the best shot of a crossbow in all of Switzerland. Is that so? Said Gessler, stopping in his tracks. He came back to stand in front of Tell, looking him up and down. Are you really such a good shot? There they are. Gessler's come back and he's now looking at William Tell and he's chucking him his apple. I wonder what he's going to do with the apple. Yes, he is, shouted someone in the crowd. And you should let him go. Perhaps I will, said Gessler, if he shows me what he can do. Gessler paused and tossed the apple he was holding to Tell. Could you hit that at 100 paces, he said, smiling. You'll leave here a free man, if you can. No, he's got to now hit the apple from 100 paces. I wonder if he can do that if he's such a good shot. I could, said Tell, and tossed the apple straight back to Gessler. You're very confident, murmured Gessler, still smiling, so maybe we'd better make it a little more difficult for you. We need something to rest the apple on, but what? I know. How about somebody's head? He's going to try and rest the apple on someone's head. Then Gessler smiled. Then Gessler's smile vanished and he stared at Tell. Your sons, for example, he said. The crowd gasped again. Tell reached out and pulled Walter to him. No, it's far too risky, he said. I refuse to put my son in danger. Ah, but you already have, said Gessler, his voice silky smooth now. He was obviously enjoying himself. Your choice is simple, Tell. Make the shot, or I'll have you put to death right here. What do you say? The crowd fell silent now, shocked by Gessler's threat. Tell wondered if he and Walter could get away, but there were too many soldiers, and Tell realised it would be impossible. He raged inside, told himself he'd been a fool to come to Altdorf today, and a bigger fool not to bow to the hat. But then Walter spoke, his voice suddenly breaking into Tell's thoughts. You can do it, father, said Walter, taking Tell's hand. I know you can. And there's Walter. And there's Walter and Tell. On the other side we've got William Tell and his crossbow. He looked into his young son's eyes and saw the trust there, the unshakable belief that his father could make this difficult shot and save their lives. Walter wasn't afraid, and Tell knew he couldn't let him down, so Tell nodded at Gessler, let go of Walter, and unslung his crossbow. Chapter 4, An Apple and an Arrow. There we go. Chapter 4, An Apple and an Arrow. Put the boy in front of the tavern door, said Gessler, still smiling, not taking his eyes off Tell for a second. That's near enough 100 paces. A couple of the soldiers took Walter to the tavern door. Gessler followed and carefully placed the apple on Walter's head. And there he is, putting the apple on top of Walter's head. Ooh, he's a nasty man, that Gessler. Then Gessler walked back to Tell. The crowd watched them silently from beyond the soldiers' pikes. Well then, said Gessler, standing close to Tell, whispering in his ear, this is it, your moment of truth. Fire whenever you're ready, peasant. Gessler stood to the side, smirking. Tell looked at him and took 2 bolts from his quiver. He fitted one in the crossbow and slipped the other into his belt where he could get it more quickly. He raised the crossbow and paused. Tell looked along the bolt and over the cobbles in front of him. The world narrowed to a small figure of Walter in the distance, and the even smaller green dot on his son's head. A blood-filled image of what would happen if he fired too low popped into Tell's mind, and he quickly pushed it out again. Walter smiled at his father. Tell took a deep breath, held it, aimed, then he breathed out slowly, squeezed the trigger as he did so. Suddenly the crossbow string twanged, the sound loud in the hush, and the bolt flew towards Walter, a deadly blur followed by every pair of eyes in the square. The bolt whacked into the tavern door. The apple exploded into a shower of green and white pieces, and Walter raised his arms in triumph. So it looks like he did what he needed to do. The apple's been shot off Walter's head. The bolt, which is like the arrow, which gets shot from the crossbow, has gone into the tavern door. The crowd exploded too, yelling, cheering, calling out Tell's name. They moved forward, the soldiers looking even more uneasy and backing off all the while. Walter ran to his father and Tell fell to his knees to hug his son. Very touching, sneered Gessler, his smirk gone, and I suppose it was good shooting. But one thing puzzles me, Tell. Why did you take 2 bolts? The second was for you, Gessler, if anything had gone wrong, said Tell. Angry but deeply relieved, he rose to his feet. Come on, Walter, let's go. Not so fast, Tell, snapped Gessler. You heard him, men. He just admitted he wanted to assassinate me. The Emperor's governor. Arrest him! If the crowd had been angry before, Gessler's words simply helped to make them furious. There were catcalls and boos, and suddenly things were being thrown at the Austrians. Cabbages and eggs and clods of earth, even cobbles. The soldiers pushed them back at the crowd. Tell saw his chance. Run, Walter, he yelled, into the crowd. They'll take care of you. Walter didn't need to be told twice. He ducked past the soldiers, advancing on his father, and dived through the legs of those facing the crowd. At the same time, Tell jumped onto the nearest market stall, quickly fitting the second bolt into his crossbow. He levelled it at the soldiers, who stopped. So there's a soldier. There's Walter escaping from the soldiers, just here. And there's Tell aiming his crossbow now at Gessler. At the soldiers. You've just signed your own death warrant and that of your family, Gessler snarled, his eyes full of hate. You won't get out of this square alive, and so long as there is breath in my body, it will be my mission to make sure your whole family is tracked down and killed. I'll do it, believe me, I will. Oh, I do believe you, Gessler, said Tell, swinging his crossbow into the governor's direction. And that's why you leave me with no choice. Tell pulled the trigger for the second time that morning, and the bolt flew straight into the Austrian governor's evil heart. Gessler slumped to the ground and died instantly. Gessler's been hit by the bolt. He's just falling over now where he's dead. The crowd fell silent again for a brief moment, and the soldiers stood looking shocked and confused. Then the crowd roared and surged forward like a great beast, sweeping the hated soldiers away. For a few seconds later, the pole and Gessler's hat came crashing down. By the end of that morning, there wasn't a single Austrian soldier left in Altdorf. The people had sent them all packing and revelled in their freedom. Tell had found Walter safe and unharmed, but the people wouldn't let him go home. They carried Tell and his son around on their shoulders, cheering. There's Tell being carried around on someone's shoulders. Eventually they put Tell on a market stall and he spoke to them. I learned something today, said Tell, his strong voice filling the whole square. I wanted a safe, happy life for my family. There was only one way to make sure of that. We've brought freedom to the one Swiss town. Now we have to bring it to the whole of Switzerland. Down with the Austrians. The crowd roared again, and soon messengers were hurrying to villages and towns all over Switzerland. It was the beginning of the War of Liberation. As Tell stood in the market square at Altdorf with his arms around Walter, he knew there were difficult times ahead, but there was no going back now. There's Tell addressing the crowds, and there's the crowds who are now going to go out and liberate Switzerland from the Austrians. The Swiss people did eventually free themselves from the Austrians, and William Tell played a leading part in the long struggle. He is remembered to this day as a hero in Switzerland and all around the world. A simple, honest man who loved his family and was finally pushed too far by a tyrant. And he is remembered as the man who shot an apple for his country's freedom. The end. I hope you enjoyed that, and have to do some more. And yeah, what a great story! Just as good as I remember it when I was a lad. Anyway, bye for now, and speak to you soon. Ta-ta.